Hey guys, Murphy's Opinions here, and I'm back with another James Bond review, and today we're looking at On Her Majesty's Secret Service, released in 1969, directed by Peter Hunt. And in this film we see a new actor step into the role of 007. So the plot of this film: James Bond continues his mission to track down Blofeld, when he finds out that Blofeld developed a lethal virus and he threatens to unleash it upon the world unless he receives a pardon for all his previous crimes. So Bond needs to find a way to get to Blofeld, know where he is, and fast. So he makes a deal with a crime syndicate called Draco, and he will, go out with his daughter Tracy in order to get information on Blofeld's whereabouts. And basically, from that, Bond finds out that Blofeld is in Switzerland. However, a romance actually develops between Bond and Tracy. So that's kind of the main plot here. Let's just kind of get into the cast and everything. So George Lazenby steps into the role as James Bond, and I definitely say Lazenby is probably one of the weakest, I'd say the weakest actor to play James Bond. And to be honest, Lazenby isn't terrible. I genuinely don't think he's that bad. I mean, the only problem is I think there are times where he will come across a bit wooden in certain scenes, but then there are other scenes where he genuinely acts really well. So what's kind of frustrating is performance is quite inconsistent, really. But I would say maybe Lazenby is a slight negative, as you know, in order to play James Bond, you need to be a consistently good actor throughout the film, and unfortunately Lazenby can't really give that. But he's great in stuff like fight scenes, and in some of the more emotional scenes, he is very good also. Then we got Diana Rigg playing the main love interest, Tracy. She's really great. I'd say she's probably one of the best Bond girls in the series. Probably the second best in my opinion, just behind another one who I'll get to later on down the line. But she's really great. Her and Lazenby actually have some pretty good chemistry together, despite the fact that Lazenby was, very limited on acting experience. And when she dies, it's genuinely a very sad moment. And it's because she was someone who you really came to like, and she was just a great character and definitely one of the best Bond girls in the entire series. And obviously a new actor came into the role as Blofeld as well, played by Telly Savalas. And I really do like his take on Blofeld. Obviously it needed to be a more physical Blofeld, as he actually is having fight scenes with Bond, and you couldn't really imagine Donald Pleasance actually fighting Bond physically, so it made sense they brought in Savalas to kind of play Blofeld. And he's great. I'd say he's probably not as good as Pleasance. I just think Pleasance was going to be very hard to be topped, but for what Savalas' role is and what he does, I think he's very good. Probably the second best Blofeld out of the four actually now. The second best out of the Blofelds that appear in the series. So yeah, I'd say Blofeld is great in this film once again. And you've got Irma Bunt, played by Leslie Steppat, I believe that's pronounced. If that's wrong, I apologise, but that's how I think it's pronounced anyway. So I definitely think Irma Bunt is I'd say she's one of the better henchwomen or people in the series again. As soon as you see her in the film, she just looks just genuinely evil. And I think, that's really what a kind of, Bond villain or henchman should really get across. And she's just someone who I think is a real take-no-nonsense kind of woman. I really like her. I think she's not in the film that much, but for what she is in the film, she does play her role very well, I think. And then you've got Gabriele Ferrazzetti playing the crime syndicate Draco. He's quite likable, actually, despite obviously being a crime syndicate. You see that he has good intentions. He wants his daughter to kind of live a happy life, but obviously at the start of the film, Tracy's quite lost in that sense. She's not really happy with her life, and you can tell he's just a father wanting to kind of give his daughter a good life. So despite being a kind of crime syndicate, you expect him to be portrayed as not very likable, but he actually is, and I do like him. I think he's not in the film that much again, but he's still very likable. Well, that's one thing I've noticed about Her Majesty's Secret Service. There's not much of the main cast. The main cast isn't that huge in comparison to other films, but I kind of like that, though. We get to know a lot more of the characters in this film. And obviously you've got the MI6 regulars. You've got Bernard Lee as M, who's great once again. Q as Desmond Llewellyn. We see that kind of more father figure side to him with Bond when at the wedding, when he offers to give him advice, and that develops throughout the series, which again I really like. And Moneypenny, I think this is one of her best performances so far. The kind of scenes with her and Lazenby are actually very good, and one of the best Bond Moneypenny scenes in the entire series. I think she's just great in this film. I think her and Lazenby actually had very good chemistry. So that's kind of the cast sorted out. Let's go on to the score, which is done by John Barry. Now, this I think is one of the best scores up to this point. I think, you know, it's definitely much different to a lot of the earlier films, but I really like it. And you know, you've obviously got the Louis Armstrong song "We Have All the Time in the World," which is a kind of great romantic love song, which I really like. I think that's just a really beautifully written song. And then the main title sequence as well is it's an instrumental song, but it's very powerful, and it really kind of sets the tone of the film very well. So I do really like the John Barry score here. I think it's one of the best of the series so far up to this point. Now in terms of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I think it's definitely, in my opinion, one of the best in the series. I think it's a film with not many flaws, and I think, you know, you've got great scenes in here, like the ski chase with Bond fighting Blofeld on the bobsled. I think those are tremendously done. At times it does look kind of poorly shot, or like the editing is not great, because obviously it's 1969. They had to kind of do it in front of like a green screen or a blue screen, so it's kind of understandable. The fight scenes, as I said before, great. Lazenby's actually very good at in the fight scenes, and they look genuinely realistic. So that's one of the strong aspects of George Lazenby. He was very good in the fight scenes. The car chase as well in Switzerland is very good. I think it very kind of tense and suspenseful. I really do like that scene. And the last scene in the film where Tracy's killed and Bond sort of, you know, saying it's all right, we've got all the time in the world, and Bond kind of breaks down and cries. I think that's a really great scene. I think that might be my favourite scene in the entire film. It's just so sad, and you know, it nearly brings me to tears every time. And you know, I think what kind of ruins that scene though for me is when after that scene's done, they then just play the Bond theme. It's just sort of like, you know, couldn't we have just ended it on a kind of, you know, on just a kind of more somber tone? But you know, that's, you know, kind of a nitpick really. But the only problems I can really think of with On Her Majesty's Secret Service is, I guess, Bond. You know, Lazenby's quite inconsistent, but there's definitely potential there. I think if Lazenby had gone on to do more Bond films instead of just the one, I think he could have grown into the role quite well, I think. And one thing that maybe I would have liked to have seen explored just a bit more, I think probably would have been the Bond and Tracy relationship. Like, it is developed and there is stuff there, but I think they could have perhaps maybe looked slightly more into the relationship, maybe, because I think towards the end they kind of rush the kind of Bond proposing and stuff, and I think they maybe could have explored that more. But the film is very long to that extent, so maybe they didn't want to drag that out too much. But honestly, I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of the most underrated films in the entire series. It's definitely a film that every time I watch it, it gets better and better. Like, the first time I watched it, I thought it was good. The second time I watched it, it was just... And it just, every time I watch it, it just gets better and better, and I really do love this film, I think. I think a lot of people probably get put off by it because everyone criticises George Lazenby, but it's still a great film. I definitely think you should watch it. It's one of the best films in the series. I'd easily put it in the top 10. I think maybe if we had a better Bond, maybe if Connery was in this one, I think it probably would have gone into my top 5. But as I said before, you know, still a tremendous film, and you know, I would recommend that anyone watch this film because it's genuinely very underrated. But I mean, at the time it got quite poor reception because of Bond and whatever, but you know, I think it definitely deserves, it's definitely getting a lot more praise now as well by a more modern audience, which I think is good to see because it is a genuinely good film. And definitely, I would say, one of the top 3 most underrated James Bond films in the entire series. So, you know, it's good to see the film in more recent years to actually get some love. But thank you guys for watching my review. Next we'll be looking at Sean Connery returning to the role of James Bond in Diamonds Are Forever. Give the video an old like, comment below, subscribe to my main channel, follow me on Us.fm and Twitter, and you know, thanks for watching, guys.